The debut solo album from the American rapper, singer-songwriter and record producer Isaiah Rashad follows a critically acclaimed EP that showed an immense amount of promise in another talented hip-hop artist. An EP where the experimental style instrumentation was addictive, lyrically this project was very engaging and full of depth, and at almost 50 minutes in length, the prospect of a debut album was one that gripped anyone who fell in love with this project. 2 years later, Rashad has delivered the Sun's Tirade, and whilst I don't think this is better than his EP, there's still plenty of merit to be found. Lyrically, this album is rather diverse regarding the topics covered, but one of this project's most prominent themes focuses on Isaiah's troubled history, primarily involving substance abuse and how he seems to be unable to fully pull himself away from these habits. One of the album's best tracks, Stuck in the Mud, touches upon his psychological and drug issues in the past and voices his feelings of helplessness and destitution despite the presence of his growing fortune. The second half of the track, Breaking Down, where Isaiah opts to take Xanax tablets in order to get away from his troubles. What's Wrong goes back to Isaiah's days of financial struggles and compares his position today to that of people in a similar position he was once in, yet can't seem to wrap his head around why they are seemingly happy despite their position, again opting to use drugs to dull his confusion, and then has his position challenged by guest vocalist Kendrick Lamar, who questions Isaiah's motivations when he learns of his quandary. Isaiah continues to address his drugs and alcohol addiction from the past on the song AA, coming off his Oxymoron tour during which he ended up addicted to Xanax and booze. The track Free Lunch is a bog standard track where Isaiah pimps out his current lifestyle, but does make reference in the chorus to using drugs in order to escape from life for a moment. Tity and Dollar shows Isaiah once again addressing his Xanax addiction and how it practically ruined his life, throwing in some really unflattering language about himself throughout, and also contains guest vocalists Hugh, Augustine and J Rock, who both bring to the forefront their own demons from the past. And Rope/Rosewood sees things take a bit more of an optimistic approach. The first half of the song sees Isaiah attempted to gain control after the issues he's had over the last few years, even reconciling with his father in the process, and the second half of the track relates to gang violence and Isaiah's desire to look after his family, and honestly, for me, the transition is quite forced and doesn't settle fully with me. Other tracks include Brenda, another track concerning Isaiah's relatives, this one being a dedication song to his grandmother, B-Day, where Isaiah reflects on celebrating his 25th birthday, Silk to Shocker, which is a simple love song dedicated to his woman. Park has Isaiah reminiscing on his childhood dreams of making it big in life and addresses those who want him to pump out album after album where he would rather take time in honing his work before throwing it out there, sort of a slight at the album's opening skit, which is a voiceover pushing Isaiah to release an album quick. Dressed Like Rappers is a reality check to those who see the rapper's lifestyle as a glamorous, flashy existence when Isaiah, who has first-hand experience of this lifestyle, contradicts these beliefs. Forder Squad has Isaiah singing his praises to the record company that gave the guy a chance to live out his dreams, and he shows gratitude for being in a financial position where he can look after not only himself but those he cares about. And the album's closer, Find a Topic, sees Isaiah addressing the criticism some have of his vast lyrical variety, essentially producing the middle finger and saying that if you don't like it, you can lump it. Instrumentally, the album is very focused on electronic beats with some trap moments sprinkled throughout, all the while injecting some funk instrumentation that serves to give this album some extra appeal that ultimately creates some very enjoyable instrumentals. The bass and electric guitar grooves on Free Lunch are great with some added synth tones in the intermittent moments. The same can be found on What's Wrong, along with some great features from Zacari and Kendrick Lamar. Park introduces hints of piano and acoustic guitar. Both have a softer delivery which complements the tone of the song nicely, along with the laboured synth line, and the often muted horn piece along with the whistling melody offers up a slurry aura that I personally think complements the song's overall theme. Stuck in the Mud is similar in terms of the aura, with the buzzing effects going hand in hand with the laboured drum beat and heavy synth line in the first half of the track before switching up to a more quicker beat with more prominent bass line backing it up. The funky bass line and electric guitar on the first half of Rope Rose Gold are solid, but I do feel the transition into the second half of the track to be a little bit forced, the complete opposite of Stuck in the Mud. And the album's closer, Find a Topic, ends with the same soft soul funk vibe that's carried off competently on the album. A fine closer if truth be told. Unfortunately, not all tracks settle all that well with me. I don't go much on the cracked, mumbled vocal delivery on B-Day, and the cutesy children's music box sound feels out of place. Silk to Shocker is another laboured track instrumentally, which works for many songs on this project, but the song's theme doesn't really warrant such a turgid instrumental, nor do the lyrics emote anything other than me pressing the skip button. I can't help but feel that Brenda could have done with being fleshed out a lot more than what we ultimately ended up with. Doesn't matter, for some reason tries to be a dance track and has the adverse effect of taking me out of the moment, and by By George is hands down this album's worst song. The woozy and messy production choices creating this glitchy and washed out track with elongated vocal deliveries. I find very little to enjoy about this track. Overall, I get what this album was attempting to achieve, and if I'm being honest, I think this record for the most part is successful. For me, this was never meant to be a glamorous album, and it isn't presented in that way. When the lyrics have some depth to them and the music can match the song's tone well, then that's when this album is at its best. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen on this project. It can feel a little inconsistent in that regard. Some songs could have pushed the boat out lyrically, and Isaiah's vocal delivery can range from solid to slurry to croaky to overdramatic and sometimes unlistenable. But along with solid guest artists and themes that do take you on a journey into a snapshot of Isaiah's life over the last couple of years, I do find myself recommending this album, but would say that this isn't up there with some of this year's best releases from the hip hop genre. Overall, I score this album a 75 out of 100.